which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. You're probably tuning in right now for Sports Illustrated. If you listen after this reading, you'll hear Sports Illustrated at 9 p.m. on Saturday. It's new home, as Wall Street Journal's Off Duty section takes over at 8 p.m. Stay with us for this reading and many more.
This is Patricia Mary, and for the next hour, I will be reading from the Saturday, Sunday, May 2nd, 3rd issue of Off Duty from the Wall Street Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. From the front page of Off Duty Travel. Venice for less, $1,000 weekend test. In a city known for high prices and dense crowds, a shoulder season trip proves it's possible to avoid both. And this is by Michael Harmon. When Hall of Fame catcher and champion quipper Yogi Berra said, "Nobody goes there anymore, it's too crowded," he was referring to a popular restaurant, but he may as well have been talking about Venice. The city is so synonymous with over-tourism that some travelers have sworn off it completely. Yet, even amid cruise ship bans and entry fees for day trippers, crowds keep coming. In 2024, nearly 6 million people refuse to stay away from the only city on earth where the streets are water and the buses are boats. Venice captivated me the first time I visited in 2016. Even in the summer high season, I'd venture just a few steps off the well-trodden tourist path and find I had city quiet back streets seemingly all to myself. A decade later, I returned to see if I could recapture the wonder of that first trip, and to do so with a strict budget of $1,000 for a long weekend. This time I visited in the fall shoulder season when summer crowds thin out and prices dip. Unfazed by friends who asked if I'd be spending $1,000 a day, I doubled down and asked my brother Josh to join me. Here's how we fared. Day one, $1,000 remaining. Venice's legendary five-star hotels beckoned those with unlimited budget, but we hadn't come to one of the world's greatest walking cities to stay inside a hotel room. The three-star Hotel Al Ponte Masingo, which is $128 a night in November, more than did the trick. With a generous breakfast spread and an ideal location in the central Santa Croce neighborhood. Though the hotel is tucked away on a whisper-quiet side street, we were reminded of Venice's over-tourism issue as soon as we checked in, when a notice at the reception desk informed us that we each owed a $4 per day tourist tax, or $25 by the end of our stay. Next came a bit of our Pareto calculus. One-way rides on the water buses cost $11 a pop, so we decided to splurge on a 3-day unlimited ride pass, which sold for $53 each. This way, we wouldn't have to agonize over every ride and could even hop aboard to cross the Grand Canal without having to walk to the nearest bridge. With lighter wallets, we set out on foot, following signs to the postcard famous Rialto Bridge and then to St. Mark's Square, where the crowds were manageable and we could take our time to admire the way the buildings artfully framed the lagoon. Although St. Mark's Basilica's Byzantine online ticketing process left us ready to throw our phones in the Adriatic, the impressive Byzantine area gold mosaics were worth the fuss. The ticket was $11.50 each. Pro tip, book your timed entry tickets in advance, ideally during the midday time slot when the mosaics are lit up. Walking back to our hotel, Josh was briefly tempted by a $210 pair of velvet gondolier slippers, one of the handful of genuine stores amid the Rialto's Heiress tourism bait, which includes at least two outposts of the same rubber duck store. I hurried him along as I had other ducks in mind. Venice's best restaurants change their menus with the seasons. Brings Resisti e Biesti, the classic Venetian rice and pea dish. Autumn meant Begoli con la natara, a spaghetti-like pasta with duck ragu. On a friend's advice, we went to the Osteria El Chietto, a tiny wine bar where the duck pasta was delicious, but the pillowy lamb noche stole the show. $84 for dinner for two. Day two, $379 remaining. After a hearty breakfast, we caught the Vaporero to Murano, the outlying island famous for its glassworks. At $334 per person, glass blowing workshop was out of the question. But for $6, we were treated to a 20-minute demonstration at the Murano Glass, where a master glass blower shaped a buck black stallion from a molten glove. Opting to take the long way home, we hopped off the Vaporetto at the top end of the neighborhood and wandered on foot past waterside cafes back towards our hotel. With an upscale dinner booked for that night, we kept lunch simple and followed local leads. At the counter at Boresso, a cafe, we had a triangular tamazzini Venetian's trademark sandwich, which was $3 each. Soon we were back on the Veretto for a sunset ride to El Covo, the culinary high water mark of our family trip to Venice a decade earlier, and our parents' honeymoon 25 years before that. Ready to splurge, I ordered squid ink noche, Dover soil, with artichokes and an inferior Parisian sorbet. Our meal set us back $165 and made Josh forget all about the slippers. At day three, with $190 remaining. After 2 days of window shopping, it was time to pick up some souvenirs. As rain fell outside, the charismatic Gianna Basso gave us a tour of his old school stationery shop and adjoining printmaking museum. We watched him operate a vintage letterpress, the mechanics whirling and cranking and clanking like a steam engine. Across the street, we visited Verato Costini's glass studio, equal parts gallery, and natural history museum. Venito's son David shaped a speck of glass into a delicate snail to add to the store's collection of glass flora and fauna. We came away with an assortment of artfully stamped bookmarks, $8, and a miniature glass fruit and figurine for $22. The skies cleared as we finished our lunch at the Osteria Montesino, $19 each for the set menu, wine included. We had planned to visit one of the city's renowned art museums, but instead opted for a ramble through the Dorsodoro district. Only when the sun started to set did we dip into the chunkily named Leonardo da Vinci exhibition in Venice, a church turned museum filled with interactive replicas of Leonardo da Vinci's inventions. That was $10.50 each. Unlike Da Vinci, who was born in Tuscany, our dinner plans, a cacchetti crawl, was unquestionably Venetian, and a chance to sample the city's bite-sized answers to Spanish tapas. We started at Adigio, a wine bar where we had a mushroom-filled croquet with white wine and sample crostini with brie, berry jam, and pistachios. At El Sabario, the Balaca Mantito, which is actually whipped salt cod, was the night's standout bite. Eventually, we settled at the Austero allo Beforo for a few rounds of scopa, the Italian card game we'd picked up on our first trip to Italy, and some stellar tiramisu. $55 all in. Day 4, $46 remaining. Determined to squeeze in a few moments before our water bus to the airport, which was $21 each, I walked through the pre-dawn light to the Passeria Razzini, just flickering to light. Standing at the counter next to a crew of workmen, I sipped a latte and munched on a pastry as the smell of espresso and the sound of Italian greetings swirled around me. The little bakery was crowded, but I didn't mind that at all. What to skip and where to spend. Skip the private water taxi. Spend on public transportation. While hailing a teak paneled water taxi to the airport is a uniquely Venetian experience, it's also a pricey one, generally topping $150 for the same airport run that the water buses do for about $20. For everything else, there's Vaporetto with unlimited passes ranging from 24 hours at $29 to 7 days at $76, or the Tarraghetti, which crosses the Grand Canal for around $2.30 a ride. Skip the sit down lunch, spend on some stand up bites. Venice is a city made for walking and bar hopping. Wine bars like El Caro serve up gourmet cichettis best enjoyed right at the counter. On your cicchetti crawl, consider also stopping for Saratoso, a paper cone filled with fried seafood and polenta. Skip the lines, spend on a museum pass. To skip museum ticket lines, consider a Venice Unica City Pass, and the most basic of which is $52 for adults, $28 for children and seniors, including free entry to the Doge's Palace and three of Venice's other civic museums. A more comprehensive pass, which is $74 for adults and $41 for children and seniors, bumps that number to 12, including the renowned Casararo and Casa Razzanino art museums. Enjoy Venice. On the style page, 4 steps to nailing a nude manicure. After years of over the top designs, the no makeup trend is coming for your nails. And this is by Fiorella Bellasolo. Though fashion pendulums may have swung away from quiet luxury, nails have done the opposite. We're hitting a saturation point with nail art and bold colors on social media, so it's only natural for some people to start gravitating the other way, says Chanel nail artist Bettina Goldstein. According to Gloss Genius, a salon management company that works with over 100,000 businesses, booking requests in the U.S. for natural nails nearly doubled in 2025 and are projected to grow another 46% this year. Japanese style manicures, which use natural paste with keratin and beeswax to strengthen and add shine in lieu of polish, are becoming more popular at salons like Gilded Ritual and New York's Tribeca. Some are ditching gel manicures because of the concerns that it's harmful to the nails. In 2025, the European Union banned TPO, a chemical in some gel polishes. Minimalist nails may read laissez faire, but they aren't effortless. Natural nails require a different kind of maintenance, says New York based manicurist and SE Global Ambassador Rita Remark. Take Get the look with these 4 steps. Ease off the gels. Shifting back to natural nails post gels can be a process. First, make sure the gel polish is removed as gently as possible. Ideally, that means filling or drilling just the top layer and then soaking the rest off, says Goldstein. The gel itself isn't really the problem, it's improper removal that does the damage. Though your inclination may be to let the nails breathe and keep them bare, that can do more harm than good. Nails are super vulnerable post gel, so a strengthening nail treatment or hydrating varnish is helpful for keeping the nail bonded and healthy as it heals and grows out, says Remark. Brighten your natural nails. Discoloration can be an impediment for many who want to go natural. Sometimes it may simply be an inevitable consequence of nail thickening as you age, but a light buff can take care of superficial staining from dark polish, smoking, or cleaning products. One old school trick that Goldstein recommends is using a whitening toothpaste to brush off mild discoloration. To avoid future discoloration, never neglect a solid base coat before you polish. It creates a barrier between your natural nail and the colored polish, adds Goldstein. Choose a barely there polish. Many of the natural nails look showing up more frequently on the red carpet are actually selective varnished. At St. Laurent's Fall 2026 fashion show, Zoe Caveret's hyper natural almond shaped nails looked fresh and slightly dewy. The handiwork of celebrity manicurist Jin Soon Choi. She calls the technique an invisible French, whereby she uses a barely there pink base and instead of the traditional white, paints the natural nail tips a very sheer milky tone. The effect is subtle but elegant. Manicurist Active Glow Polish treatment has a similarly glossy effect that makes the nails look healthier. It even out it even outs the nail tone, adds shine, and a healthy glow, but still looks very natural, says manicurist co-founder and CEO Gayle Lobe Porcenet. It's like no makeup for the nails. Keep a routine. Natural nails demand regular home care, says Remark. That could consist of cuticle oil, hand cream, and a nail treatment product to address brittleness, splitting, and softness. Much like with the skin on your face, a solid moisturizer is key. Regular hydration cures and conceals a multitude of nail issues, says Remark. Goldstein also recommends massaging vitamin E into your nails. You are listening to the reading of articles and features from Off Duty from the Wall Street Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Here's another article from the fashion page. The secret to the virile wet hair look is KY jelly. Just don't tell KY. Influencers are slathering lube on their heads for glossy locks, but some brands aren't cashing in on the beauty hack. And this is by Suzanne Varancia. The wet hair look is having a major cultural moment, with drenching looking locks showing up on red carpets, runways, and reels. The secret to those glossy dews? For some, lube. Yes, the personal lubricant usually reserved for far more intimate areas. The renowned popularity of the look, which requires soaking hair with the product, has become a surprisingly sticky issue for lube brands. Preparing for a high stake promotional event for a body wash brand, influencer Deanna Galletti wanted to achieve the glossy, fresh out of the shower effect. After her stylist suggested an unconventional alternative to traditional hair gel, she found herself sitting in a parked car on the way to the airport, slathering a newly purchased bottle of KY Intimate lubricant directly onto her tresses and filming the process for her 2.2 million plus followers across Instagram and TikTok. The cosmic gamble was a hit, Galletti said, yielding flawless results that avoided the hard, flaky crust of some traditional styling products. Sensing a lucrative cross promotional opportunity, she posted the video, tagged KY, and had her management team pitch a formal brand partnership. Instead of leveraging the beauty hack, Reddick Branisker, the packaging goods giant that owns KY, ran for the hills. We appreciate the creativity here, but please note our KY lubricant should only be used as directed on the label, the brand told Galletti in an Instagram direct message. She was then directed to a call center where an assistant questioned her for personal details, such as her height, weight, and date of birth. She assumed Reddick requested the information to shield itself from potential liability. KY products are designed and regulated as medical devices for use as personal lubricants and have not been studied for other uses, says Julie Kim, Reddick's Vice President of Regulatory Affairs and Safety. The safety of the people who use our products is our first priority. Lubricants are classified as medical devices by the Food and Drug Administration, and companies like Reddick may be wary of violating FDA guidelines by promoting them for other uses. Considering the sensitive spots the lube is usually intended for, Galletti and others found it odd that they would be of any concern about using it on a head. Lube goes inside your body, said Wet Lubricants founder Michael Trigg. If it can go in there, it's not going to hurt up there. Though Reddick has distanced itself from the trend, modern brands typically lean hard into the viral social media hacks or even create entirely new products based on them. Some personal lubricant makers aren't opposed to off label marketing. Uber Lube promotes its lubricants as anti chafing products for athletes and boasts on its website that the product can tame frizz and leave a moisturized feel on hair and skin. Wet Lubricants Trigg said his brand marketed its lube online as a hairstyle product years ago. Anything to make people use more product. I'm gun ho for it, says Trigg, who, according to his company's website, is known as the godfather of lube. A rash of celebrities, including Kim Kardashian, Kerry Washington, and Sarah Paulson, have appeared in recent years with seemingly wet hair at the Met Gala, fashion's biggest night, helping boast the popularity of the look. Fashion trade publication WWD named the aesthetic one of the top trending summer stylists last August. Although an avalanche of gels, serums, and oils has successfully turned the high fashion style into an attainable at home look, the lube hack used by some stylists has been spreading to the masses thanks to social media. Eric Vaughn, founder of REV Hair Salons, says he struggled to consistently achieve the wet look with conventional methods like water and gels. On the advice of a red carpeted stylist, Vaughn experimented with using a bottle of KY, testing the approach in 2022 on a pageant contestant preparing for a photo shoot, and sharing the results on TikTok. Some gels harden and get flaky, while lube's whole goal is to not dry out, says Vaughn, who prefers water based lubricants since it doesn't stain clothing. The trick came in handy on the reality series The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Cast member Taylor worried her natural curly hair and extensions would freeze and wave during a season 2 scene requiring the cast to emerge from a lake, says co-star Jesse Draper, a hairdresser. Draper solved the dilemma by instructing on an on-set stylist to use water-based lube to achieve a sleek, wet look. Perfecting the style was essentially for the Hulu series where hair is an unpaid character in our storyline, says Draper. Still, not every elite stylist is on board with the off brand hack. Kim Kardashian's hairstyle, Chris Appleton, who had never heard of lube being used for hairstyling, described the hack as gross and not necessary. He argued that proper hair products already exist that are better suited for achieving the desired look. Appleton said he had never used it on Kardashian's hair. I have only ever used lube for one thing. From the design page, how to landscape a yard at three different budgets. As landscaping costs rise, these projects offer lessons in making smart design decisions, whether you're looking to spend 5,000 or 500,000. And this is by Catherine O'Shea Evans. Budgets for landscaping projects these days can feel like a leaking hose. A planting scheme that might have set you back 3,000 to 7,500 in 2025 now commands 4,000 to $9,000, according to data from Yardzen, a online landscaping platform. Scale that up, and the math is even starker. $100,000 project last year now requires roughly $120,000 to $130,000 for the exact same print. Yet homeowners aren't backing down. According to the 2026 House study, 54% of renovating property owners upgraded their yards last year, though many are bypassing splashy water and fire features in favor of the quiet, restorative reliability of garden beds and borders. To find the line between money pit and masterpiece, we dug into three projects across a spectrum of price points and sizes to highlight where to splurge, where to spend, and how to get the most dirt for your dollar. Here is an $8,000 backyard fix in Brooklyn, New York. The size is 560 square feet. The strategy is masking the ugly and buying things secondhand. When landscaper designer Michael Safiro and his partner Casey Friedman moved into their rental in the neighborhood of Bedford Stuyvesant, their brownstone yard was a jungle of invasive knotweed around a massive concrete slab. Rather than a costly demolition, they took a more resourceful approach, essentially giving the yard the equivalent of a slipcover for an eyesore. They bought 2,000 pounds of pea gravel for $125, spread it over the concrete by hand, and set to work in surrounding the garden. The design trick is versatility. To make a tiny footprint feel larger, they planted a native clematis climbing vine to draw the eye up. Smart spend. They scouted Facebook Marketplace, scoring a 3 foot tall yew hedge for $35, which Sergio said is one third of the retail price. $100 bistro table was another social media find, and tall terracotta pots were gifted by a friend. The payoff? By creating distinct zones, the couple turned a cramped lot into what feels like a multi room oasis, the highlight of which is a central outdoor dining area. A $66,000 study in high impact simplicity in Santa Barbara, California. The space is size is 7,500 square feet, and the strategy one strong idea repeated. When budget or space limits your vision, Yards and Design director Kevin Lenhart suggested a punk rock approach. Pick three chords that are timeless and powerful. Megan and James Bell, who own the 701 square foot cottage, achieved their version of simple harmony by centering their yard design on olive trees. The design trick: the gals splurged $10,500 on three established mature 48-inch box olive trees, placing them in the front yard and side patio to create instant scale. The smart spend to balance the budget, they spent $8,400 on 16 younger 24-inch box trees for the perimeter. They also phased their landscaping to manage cash flow. First, a $31,750 sandstone paver patio, followed later by a $2,900 flagstone pathway. The payoff, repeating the same tree species created thematic cohesion inside a palette of sage, rosemary, and lavender made the yard feel like a natural extension of the California landscape. Now, here's a biggie: $470,000 study in phased landscape design in Woodway, Washington, and it's 28,500 square feet. The strategy is strategic phasing and sculptural moments. On a rear acre lot overlooking the Puget Sound, the numbers got big, but the strategy remained the same. A lot of phasing happened to make this project feasible for my clients, says Allison Hogue, architect and co-founder of Seattle's Flosan Studio Architects, who collaborated with landscape design Susan O'Trimble. The design trick: investing in custom planters and services. The budget was dominated by hardscaping built for the long haul. Beyond the costly driveway, there are $25,000 concrete walls, Pacific black balsa cut steps at $810 each, and 3,560 Corten steel walls. The smart spend: Hogue used weathered granite boulders. One weighed 1.5 tons and cost $450 to create shadow and depth and give the eye a place to rest within the sprawling site. The payoff: trees like smoke bushes act as the grand dames of the garden. Their airiness provides a visual softness that buffers the hard lines of the concrete and steel, turning the large property into a quiet space for pause. You're listening to the reading of articles and features from Off Duty from the Wall Street Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. This is an article from the Rumble Seat by Dan Neal, a convertible that inspires envy like a luxury handbag. The monogram series of the Mercedes Maybach, a sub-brand that competes with Rolls-Royce and Bentley, comes with an eye-catching logo and swaddled in Napa leather. But is it in good taste? And again, it is by Dan Neal. In 1888, in an effort to stem counterfeiting of their travel trunks, Louis Vuitton and his son Georges introduced the damier checkerboard pattern in distinctive shades of taupe and chocolate. Fashionable folks today call it the damier ebene. The more intricate LV monogram pattern with quatrefoil and flowers appeared in 1896 as George's contribute to his late father. But the knockoffs continued. In fact, Louis Vuitton's wallpaper-like motif became one of the most initiated designs in luxury. The wallpaper-like motif became one of the imitated designs in luxury goods, copied over the decades by haute coutures such as Balmain, Goyer, and Yves Saint Laurent, and not so hot, including Coach, Burberry, and Fendi. As for Louis Vuitton itself, the flagship brand of luxury conglomerate LVMH now derives some two-thirds of its revenue from sales of monogrammed accessories, particularly handbags. Which brings us to the 2026 Mercedes Maybach SL680 monogram series, which sells for $283,950, is tested, and its monogram, a pair of MS's in the font evoking the title card of Fritz Lang's Metropolis, enclosed in a soft shouldered delta figure. Originally the symbol for Maybach Motorbahn, a maker of the sternly luxury cars in Germany before World War II, the monogram now denotes Mercedes Maybach, the sub brand launched by Stuttgart in 2014 to compete against Rolls Royce and Bentley. You may also regard the double MS as standing for more money. The Monogram Series SL comes in one of two exclusive colors. Our test car dazzled in the white ambiance scheme, the color of Arctic foxes, papal vestments, and pharmaceutical cocaine. The alternative red ambiance drenches the car in a fathomless shade of garnet metallic. In either scheme, the monogram pattern in graphite gray is woven into the canvas of the convertible top and printed onto the obsidian black hood panel. Join me now in a long, considerable pause. Set aside for a moment whether this two seated, 577 horsepower luxury convertible, this bazooka with a mink silencer, is any fun to drive. Is it strictly good taste? Does it say things that owners would like to be said? Or is it a long last too much too obvious? With the Monogram series, the Mercedes Maybach finally slipped into crazy rich Asian territory. Speaking of over the top, when I interviewed Carlos Goshen at the 2010 Paris Motor Show, the then CEO of Nissan was wearing a tailored suit from Louis Vuitton, gridded with the LV monogram pattern. I dared tease him about it. I said it looked like he had his suit on inside out. Our time together was brief. Whatever my misgivings about the 680 SL's seamlessness, I soon met a lady who convinced me I was wrong. I say met. We were both turning right at a four-way stop. I in the 680 SL and she in a white over black GMC Tahoe. The look she gave the car as we passed was priceless. A look of sudden, obscene envy mingled with a kind of fury. This nice lady was this close to committing a carjacking. I guess the monogram thing works. The name Maybach has a father and son history too. Wilhelm, the father, was one of the pioneers of German automotive engineering. He and Carl founded what became the Maybach Company in 1909, manufacturing high performance engines for Zeppelins, airplanes, and luxury cars until the start of World War II. In 1960, Daimler Benz bought what was left of the Maybach Company. In 1997, the company launched Maybach as an independent division, offering two stupendous limousines, the 57, as in 5.7 meters long, and the 62, from 2002 to 2013. The reborn Maybach struggled for sales against the old world incumbents Rolls Royce and Bentley. In the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, Maybach was reorganized as Mercedes Maybach, a sub brand building small numbers of technically evolved super luxury variants of mainline products. There is a little chance of mistaking the test car for typical Mercedes fare. Up front, a fierce rictus of sterling bright illuminated vertical bars is capped with a chrome plated embossed with the word Maybach. The traditional three-pointed star hood ornament is reduced to a mere outcropping in a sea of monograms. While not as obvious, the lower grill area is also dotted with monograms. I'm beginning to see a pattern. The construction is immaculate. Few automobiles' exteriors are ever finished like this, with its broad, sterling like chrome garnishes at the lower grille intake, the rocker panels, exhaust outlets, and bumpers, all smoothed perfectly into the glass blown curvatures. The only exterior detail I couldn't come to terms with was the rose gold accents in the headlight assemblies. Not ever. Inside the cabin of this not particularly big roaster is an upholstered like a ring box from Van Cleef's and Arpels, wrapped in crystal white Napa leather, including the rear parcel bench with matching seats embossed with floral designs and Mercedes Maybach emblems. The deep pile floor mats are also white, or at least were before I got to them. What isn't white is black leather and dash top, polished black wood with silver chrome trim. At night, with the top down, the Burmester audio bumping, the snow hills of white leather upholstery glowing with LED indirect lighting, the space feels a bit like sitting neck deep at a Miami Beach hot tub party. Dan's up in the house. What up, ladies? Who's here for lunch? Is there actually a car in there somewhere? Oh, yeah. They could have called it the Drano Edition because they threw in the kitchen sink. The list of wonders begins with the quiet storm. A hand-built 4.0-liter twin-turbo V8 summoning 577 ghostly horses with soft-soled trainers on their hooves, galloping across the countryside and destroying driving records. I got a speeding ticket in South Carolina. No excuses, but man, I had completely lost track of my speed. This car's propulsion system, including a 9 speed automatic transmission and fully variable all wheel drive, is so heavily damped and isolated it might as well be in another car. Sport mode will awaken a growl in the exhaust pipes, but that's not what pays the SL 680's bills. Other overachieving systems include the active hydraulic roll stabilization, the rear wheel steering, even the acoustically insulated convertible top. Your Honor contributed to my oblivious delinquency. Just another fashion victim. The base price for this car is $224,900. As tested, it was $238,950. Goes from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 4 seconds flat. Fuel economy is 13 city, 20 highway, and 16 miles per gallon combined. From the fashion page, runners got bored with the road, so they moved to the trail. Road runners are heading for the dirt, and shoe brands are building a new footwear category to meet them there. And this is by Ashley Mateo. For 2 decades, Tony Leach would set his alarm for 5 a.m. to sneak in a run before his family woke up, logging between 20 and 60 miles a week in pursuit of shaving a few minutes off his marathon time. Then he decided he was tired of all that. I wanted to get out into nature more and do events where I wasn't pressuring myself, says the 42-year-old San Francisco Bay Area runner. So, like many other runners these days, he headed for the hills. Trail running or running on unpaved surfaces has never been more popular. A 2026 report from the Sports and Fitness Industry Association found participation has increased 30% over the past 3 years. You're starting to see some of those core road runners reach their limits, says Steve Holmberg, founder of Insight Accelerator, a consumer research and strategy consultancy for sports and outdoor brands. Professional marathoners like bronze medalist Molly Siddell and 2018 Boston Marathon champion Des Linden, who have moved from road racing to trail running, are leading the charge. We've done a 10K and a half marathon and then a marathon, said Holmberg. They're saving I want what's next. Now, Leach typically logs one big trail run, usually 15 plus miles per week alongside his other workouts. It's so much more fun, and how fast I do it feels like it matters a lot less, he says. Ashley Porter, a 39-year-old marathon runner in Washington, D.C., started mixing trail runs into her weekly training to prepare for a long distance relay race in Zion National Park in Orderville, Utah in May. It's my first time consistently trail running, she says. In the past, she's always prioritized running on roads. These seem like a fun opportunity to try something new that's rooted in an activity I already love. Annika Ivanhoff, a 27-year-old runner in Denver, ran one road marathon before moving to the dirt. I didn't vibe with the road running as much as trail, she says. I started running as a way to process my grief over losing my dad, and I found that finding my breaking point on a trail gave me good clarity. The majority of trail runners are actually running more on dirt and gravel paths within city limits or nearby open spaces than technical mountain trails. The cities with the highest percentage of runs on dirt include Austin, Detroit, Seattle, Denver, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, and Portland, Oregon. And the median distance recorded was just over 4 miles, according to data from fitness tracker app Strava. I'd like to think of trail running as incredibly rugged and gnarly and muddy when the reality is most people are running on a beautifully double track that's pretty firm. It feels more like road than trail, says Holmberg. This casualization of trail running spurred sneaker companies to expand a once niche footwear category, gravel to road to trail shoes, which are being specifically marketed to beginner trail runners. Brands such as Brooks, Nike, Solomon, and Adidas are rolling out more models designed to feel familiar underfoot while offering enough grip, protection, and durability for all conditions. I bought 3 trail shoes before my first race and hated them all, says Tracy Smith, a Chicago runner who ran her first trail race in 2026 after wanting to move away from more crowded road races. They all felt very stiff and heavy, and I was looking for that super responsive feelings I get from my road racing shoes. The Brooks Ghost is Brooks' most popular road trainer, but last year the brand launched the Brooks Ghost Trail, an off road version. The Ghost Trail has that familiar ride and feel with built up traction, durability, and just enough protection, says Nick Clinton, footwear product line manager at Brooks Running. It's also distinctive from the brand's Acedia, which is optimized for more rugged and technical rail running. Similarly, Nike debuted the ACG Pegasus Trail in April for customers who like the lightweight, responsive Pegasus road shoe but were moving to the dirt. It has trail specific innovations that help runners feel confident stepping off the pavement, says Brendan McLace, director of ACG's footwear, of the sticky rubber outer sole and the quick draining mesh upper. The confidence element is key in turning casual trail runners into more committed ones. Leach recently ran his first 50K, and my shoe choice for the event was awful, he said of the minimalist Nike Terra Kiggers that left his foot torn up from the rocky course. It's not like running on the world where you're just picking for fit trail runners need shoes to match the terrain that they're running in. Another fashion for the runners, the 2 hour marathon barrier gets smashed. Is it the shoes or the sugar? Sebastian Sway's record run in London is propelled by super shoes, but also a radical rethink of the race day eating. And this is by Jason Gray. It's got to be the shoes. Is it also the sugar? Sebastian Sway's mind bending sub 2 hour, 1 hour, 59 minutes and 30 seconds performance at Sunday's London Marathon, followed closely by a possibly even more astonishing 1 hour, 59 minutes and 41 seconds run by first time marathoner Komeshi, has proved excitably discussion on how this once presumed unbreakable 2 hour mark fell twice in one day. Much of the buzz is centered on the featherweight carbon fiber plated Adidas running shoes both runners wore. These sneakers, which the journal's Reg Cal Beckman recently wrote about, weigh a mere 3.4 ounces in a man's size 9, less than a bar of Irish Spring. The weight and carbon springiness combine for a formidable weapon, a super shoe in quotation marks. Less known but similarly compelling is the brainy leap that's happening with my best sport, eating. In grueling endurance sports like cycling and now running, athletes are gobbling down unprecedented amounts of sugary carbohydrates, both in training and competition, via fast acting gels and bottles loaded with glucose and fructose. I first saw this in action last fall, riding in the Team USA car at the World Cycling Championships in Rwanda. I couldn't believe the amount of sugary carbs that racers were taking on. I thought that eating and drinking too much of that stuff was supposed to make you barf. Not anymore. Race day has morphed into a Wonka style all you can eat buffet. It's been a game changer, says Anna, a doctor and the head of nutrition at EF Pro Cycling. Yes, running people, I say it's for you. Carb loading is an old staple of endurance racing, and sugars have always been a method of getting quick carbs. Athletes have been downing jelly beans and gummy bears forever. Jimmy Connors used to scarf a Snickers bar between sets, but consuming too much of any substance in competition always comes with a significant risk, debilitating, day-altering gastric distress and or diarrhea. I think that's the first time I've used the word diarrhea in my column. History. Today's sports docs feel they've cracked the code. Elite athletes are now consuming twice as many carbs as they might have just a handful of years ago. It's about eating your way through an event, says Jim Miller, the chief of sports performance of USA Cycling. Just keep fueling the machine. To be clear, these athletes aren't chowing on the yucky old sports gels we all know and hate, the ones that taste like tangerines and moldy baseball gloves. It's a high octane, quick absorption stuff for which elite athletes literally have to train the gut in order to withstand all the carbs they're taking in. And it's working. As you can see from the marathon it choose, says Michael Ration, USA Cycling and USA Triathlon's chief medical officer. It's not just that you could fuel correctly for the race. It's the fact that if you fuel correctly for all of your training, then you can run faster in training and recover faster. You get this sort of flywheel effect. The record smashing Sway worked with Swedish company called Murtan, which closely coordinates and supplies his race day nutrition. Murtan head of sports tech Josh Rowe recalls how, not long ago, major races used to have sick buckets at the finish line for queasy finishers. There was a performance paradox, Rose says. Athletes knew they needed to have carbohydrates, but there was also a risk of getting GI issues. Martin uses a substance called hydrogel, a gel long used in medicine to deliver medication to fast acting carbs without triggering stomach havoc and sloshing around during the race. On Sunday, Sway, whose team members stationed around the course to resupply his gels and drinks, took in 25 grams of carbs at the start, then 25 grams every 5 kilometers, briefly loading plus a caffeine gel at the 20-kilometer mark on his way to consuming a total of 230 grams of carbs over the 2-hour London race. That looks like a nerdy bunch of numbers, and it is, but it's a leap. Rowe regularly traveled to Sway's camp in Kenya, where they stimulated competitive environments and feedings to prepare Sway's stomach to handle it. The gut training crucial for race day. It's similar to shoe technology, said Rowe. Athletes are able to ingest carbohydrates quite aggressively in training, which they never used to do. Obviously, carbs aren't the only reason Sway broke 2 hours. Many contributing factors: the crazy shoes, improved training methods, good sleep, a fast course, great competition to push speeds, a race day tailwind, and of course, Sway itself. As the specter of performance enhancing drugs always hangs over sports, Sway's team has sought to quell any speculation by having him frequently and voluntarily tested. Andy King, a lecturer in exercise science at Australian Swinburne University, marvels at Sway's carb intake in London. Still, he thinks if it's a debate between the shoes and the sugar, it's probably the shoes. I don't think it is dramatic as the advance in shoes tech, King writes over an email, but I do think it's been an underused tool in endurance training. That's truly clearly true. In fact, the new thinking in sports considers an athlete's stomach almost as useful as his legs, a weapon to train and harness. It's about seeing the digestive system as one of the performance factors, says EF Pro Cycling Carceller. We aren't considering this in the past. We weren't considering this in the past. There you have it. You may not want to spend all the money for the fancy shoes, and it's likely you don't have the legs to run a sub 2 hour marathon. But who knows? You might have the stomach. Been listening to the reading of articles and features from Saturday, Sunday, May 2nd, 3rd issue of Off Duty from the Wall Street Journal. We now read from Off Duty every Saturday at 8 p.m. Your reader has been Patricia Mary. God bless, and thank you for listening, and be safe out there.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have Sports Illustrated. At 10 o'clock, The Athletic, and at 11 o'clock with episode number 11 of Gone Before Goodbye by Harlan Coben and Reese Witherspoon. Stay with us for these readings and more. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content